I'm Tamara, and I have been an evaluation consultant now for, since 2008. So what is that, 12 years? That's when I started my consulting business. And really, I think it's just been this journey of figuring out like how to be effective, like how to be effective in my job, how to be effective as a consultant, how to be effective as a business owner. And so I have come to really embrace this 90-day year operating system, which was invented by Todd Herman, but also just like the things that I use regularly that make it so that the time that I'm working is really high quality time. I work a lot of hours because some out of choice, and sometimes I feel like I have to. And so it's really hard to like look at my time and be like, that was a waste, right? Like that wasn't as effective as it could have been. I want every hour that I work to be really like effective and contribute the most that it can to my performance. So I don't really like to call it like time management, because it's not necessarily about managing the time. It's actually about maximizing or making that time about performance. So we're going to look at quality versus quantity when it comes to our work. Now, okay, so I'm like a big fan of The Rock. So this quote from him, Dwayne Johnson, is all success begins with self-discipline. It starts with you. And I love this quote because I really do think that we have control over certain things in our life. And if we can have the discipline to use that control to make ourselves better, then that really, I think, is a key to success. So there are three core phases or parts to high performance. We have the performance phase. So this is actually kind of the evaluation phase. This is looking back at the data around what really have we done, where are we, what's our current state, and then we move into our achievement phase. So where are we planning to be? So what are we hoping to achieve in the future? So this is setting our goalposts in the future. And then in the present, what are we doing now? Execution. So we have the past review, the future achievement, and then we have our current execution. Today, I'm going to lean all in on execution. And so execution is part of this efforts framework. So first we have our execution, then we have focus, feedback loops, optimized strategies, routines, and toughness. Now, execution, super fast clicking, sorry. Execution is about your ability to perform. It's about you producing the result with your actions and being consistent. So this is where a lot of the time maximization falls. And then focus is about doing the right thing. So focusing on one thing at a time, completing that task, and your ability to help others complete the task they're supposed to complete, and really just embracing the process and getting things done. So you can execute, but if you aren't focused, you're going to be executing a lot of different things and you'll be scattered all over the place. So focus, I always champion focus. So one thing at a time. Then we have feedback loops. So this should fit with your evaluative thinking of always having data and reflecting on that and having that feedback shape then what you do next. So tracking, reflecting, and then changing or creating plans of action based on that feedback. Optimize strategies. So this is where it's your right thing right now. Choosing what you should be working on, what you shouldn't be working on in order to progress the big picture and progress your plan. This is taking a proactive approach to, I'll use the term that I don't like so much, time management, because you're not just doing anything, you're strategically doing things in order to keep yourself moving forward. And then we have routines. This is creating the habits that make it so you engage in the things that you're supposed to be engaging in. So like having a habit in the morning that gets you working on the right thing in the morning, having a habit at the end of the day. Those routines will help it so that you aren't always making decisions about what you should be doing, but always knowing exactly what to do and being able to just jump into the right thing. Then we have toughness. This is Todd Herman's term. Some people call it grit. I think just as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we have a lot of stresses and things that aren't necessarily in other people's lives. Because we own the business, because we have our own staff, or because we have clients that really demand a lot of us, everything comes down to us. Like, we're the ones who are ultimately responsible for things. And so I think there's a resilience or a grit or a toughness. There's a mental state that we need in order to be able to weather all of that and come out still being confident and in control over our business. So going into the execution, going into some tools. I promise that if you really actually use the tools or the strategies that I talk about today, that you will multiply your daily performance. I know it's a big promise, but I've seen it in action, not just with myself, but with like my clients that I coach, and it's real. So thinking about first, like, let's say we have a project. Okay, we have project A. There's all sorts of things we need to do for that project. Most people will do that project and all sorts of other things. And when you do that, you lose a lot of time. So you may have heard of this concept called context switching. And with context switching, what it means is it's multitasking in essence, okay? So it's the research term for multitasking, where, for example, like I turned off all of my notifications because now is the time when I'm going to focus on one thing, and that's you all, okay? When you're working in your tasks, most people, like, I'll have project A up. I'll be working on the document or working on the data or something, and then I'll get an email notification. And I'll say, ooh, email, click on the email and switch over to email for just like 30 seconds, look at the email, oh, nothing important, then switch back to whatever I was working on for project A. And that sort of quote unquote multitasking, you lose actual momentum in your time worked on the project. So these data, I didn't put the source here. I'll have to find the source, but this is research-based. So in studies on context switching, we find that the number of simultaneous things that you are switching between decreases how much time you actually spend working on that actual, like, any given project. So you can lose up to 80% of your time. So you might work 8 hours, but 80% of that time isn't actually getting anything done because you're spending the time switching your brain back and forth between tasks. So when you're in the same context, you gain momentum of your thought because you remember exactly where you were, where you're going. You don't have to remind yourself what you were thinking about. So that ability to not get distracted, even though it feels like you're switching back and forth really easily and effectively, you're not. You're losing what you would have achieved otherwise. So if we think about it another way, like if we have these blocks of time, and in these blocks of time, you have, like, I work on project A, and then I work on project B, then I work on project C, then I work on D and E. And then the next day I work on A, B, C, D, and then F. And then the next day I'm working on G, H, D, A, and I. Like, ultimately, I'm not going to finish project A until maybe the third week or like much later. Whereas if I just worked on A until it was done, so now we have A. Oh, it's done. It's done. It's no longer on my list. And instead of being done in week 3, it's done in week 1. And then if I work on B until it's done in week 2 or in day 2, however you're making this block. So by actually organizing your time so that you're not actually working on all your projects all the time and blocking time to work on a single project until you achieve a completed task or get to a stopping point, like, you actually will complete all of your projects faster, even though it feels like, wait, I'm delaying on starting on this other thing and this is going to hurt me. It's, I think, counterintuitive to a lot of people, but it's actually, like, research shows that you will get more done faster if you organize your time with less switching. So, all about getting things done. Another strategy is the daily theme. And this is a way, it's basically an activity decision filter. So Stephen Covey, you may have heard of him. A lot of people bought his daily planners. He had daily planners because he's super into time management and productivity. So he said the key is to keep the main thing. So when I said about focus, like, you have one thing, like, focus on your main thing and don't deter from that main thing. That sort of focus will help you achieve more. So what's our problem? The problem is that we have a lot of things that are coming at us and we have to filter them somehow. We have to decide, what am I going to work on today, or what am I going to work on first? And it's hard to always keep that main thing the main thing, because everything kind of feels important, or there's only small differences in importance. And sometimes urgent things aren't actually the most important, but they're urgent, which makes it feel like you have to do it. And so it's hard sometimes to manage competitions for your time. So the daily theme is an organizing principle that you can use to help you to make quick decisions about what should or shouldn't be worked on. So looking at an example, a daily theme, you set a theme for a single day. So, like, let's say we have a marketing Monday, a client work Tuesday, Wednesday sales, Thursday team growth, Friday finances, Saturday rest, and then Sunday personal development. And yes, I do theme my weekends. I have a social day, and then I have, like, a clean the house kind of day. But the themes then kind of dictate, like, what time blocks and what you're going to put into that day. So, for example, right now, my client work days are Wednesdays and Fridays. So on Wednesdays and Fridays, I block those are my theme days for clients. So all of my client meetings I schedule on Wednesdays and Fridays, and I block my work times on Wednesdays and Fridays for clients. Now, does that mean that I never work on client anything on other days? No, but it means the majority, large majority of the time, it is a no. The most of the time I spend on clients is on Wednesdays and Fridays. So when something comes to me and a client, for example, emails me and says, hey, there's this thing, can we chat? Or can you send me something to, like, I was just talking about amending a contract to make it bigger. Then I could say, okay, do you have time on Thursday or Friday? Or yeah, and then I block a time on Wednesday to put together that contract amendment. So that way I still am responsive, but I'm not distracting my plans. I'm keeping my plans on track. Here's another example. You might have marketing Monday, Tuesday for systems. You might have meetings on Wednesdays. So I know some people that put all their meetings into single days or 2 days a week, so that then the other days are, like, truly work days. I've tried that. It exhausts me because meetings, like, take everything out of me. But also I just find that I have too many meetings, like, they don't fit into a single day. But for some people, I know it works really effectively to just say, I don't meet with people on Mondays or Tuesdays, I only meet with people on Wednesdays. Then it's less distracting on the days that you're working because you don't have meetings to deal with. I have a system, I blend my systems and finances into a single day, just because I dedicate a little bit less time to my systems, and I find that finances take very little time. And so I theme those together, but you could also theme them separately. So the reason this is powerful is because it helps you show up and know what the day's about. Like, you don't have to actually, like, think in the morning, like, okay, what's on my plate? You already know that, okay, it's Monday, today's marketing. I'm going to be in marketing brain all day. It also reduces context switching, even if you're changing tasks, because all the tasks are still related to the same topic. So there's less loss to context switching. It also helps you to give quicker responses and make faster decisions when people, like I said, like email you out of the blue to ask for something. You can just say, okay, are you free on Thursday? Oh, can you, I'll do that on Friday. Because you already know when you will be able to block time for that. So it's focusing you on a single thing each day so that you can stop switching back and forth between things and reduce the amount of time it takes to decide what you should or shouldn't be focusing on. So Jack Dorsey is an excellent example of theme days. He is the CEO of both Twitter and Square. Now, both of them are full-time jobs, and he literally works full-time on both jobs. So he has 40-hour week with both jobs. The first half of the day is fully Twitter, and the second half of the day is fully Square. This man works a lot. Okay. Thankfully, he put his two offices next door to each other. So he literally walks next door. But he themes the days so that in both companies, he's working on the same thing. So in the mornings, he works on management at Twitter. Then he goes next door to Square and works on management. On Tuesday, it's product day. So Twitter product in the morning, Square product in the afternoon. He's like super diligent about this because otherwise, with two entire different businesses, because they have very different products, they have entirely different teams, but he as the CEO still has the same role in both of them. And so he can group the type of work he's doing to reduce the context switching. And also by limiting Twitter to the morning and Square to the afternoon, he's also reducing his context switching by keeping his Twitter brain on in the mornings and keeping his Square brain on in the afternoons once he transitions. So if you want to take actions to set daily themes, start by reviewing what the core things are that drive your results. So you know you have to do marketing as a business owner, so you need to have some sort of theme time for your business development, your marketing. Think about what your strengths are. So you could theme a day specifically around your strengths so that you have a day of like superpower. Review the data that you have on your business and the use of your time. So like if you never track your time, start tracking your time and start to see where you're losing focus or where you're losing time. And try to theme your days or theme your tasks so that you are avoiding those kind of pitfalls that you're falling into already. And then when you set your achievement goals, like make sure that you have theme days that then support you achieving your business goals. So if you set a sales goal for the first quarter of the year, so by March, you want to make sure you have theme days that support you then hitting that revenue goal or hitting that sales goal. Because if you make theme days that are all client work and no marketing or no sales, then you're not going to hit your goals. So there's an alignment between these sort of time maximization strategies with your then goal setting and goal achievement. Another strategy is the block and tackle method. And this is sort of like theming and reducing that context switching, but on a smaller scale. So now you're setting boundaries on your time on a more micro scale. So an example of this is, there was this school that had a playground, okay? And the playground had no fence. It was just like a big grassy area that was right outside the school. And when kids were playing on it, they would all kind of play close to the school building. Like they wouldn't go and use the whole yard. They would just kind of be in this close area. And then the school bought a fence and they put up this fence and fenced off the whole grassy area for the playground. Once the fence was in, the kids played in the whole grassy area all the way out to all the edges of the corners of the fence. The reason that this applies to your time is because you take whatever space you're given, okay? You go out, if you set a boundary, you'll use all of it. As compared to if there's no boundaries, you're not going to use as much. So really it's thinking inside the box. When you block your time, you're setting boundaries. And so you can actually control how much time you're going to take to do things by setting boundaries on it, because you'll take the time you're allotted. So a block and tackle is that you set a predefined time or block to complete a task or project. So if if we looked at my crazy looking calendar, you would see like color coded boxes of time all blocked off and with what I'm going to complete during it. I also use Pomodoro method, which is like a time where you work for 25 minutes and then take 5-minute breaks. So I actually have, if you double clicked and opened up my calendar items, it would tell you how many Pomodoros each one is. And you block that time. So you schedule, yes, every minute of your time, including your break time, like throughout for the whole week. And those blocks are set based on you finishing something. So I look at the task and I say, what do I need to achieve? And when you look at how long do I think it's going to take me to achieve that? So given that I think that it's going to take me that time, I'm going to block that amount of time. If you're good at it, you might be accurate. But if you're bad at it, not so accurate. But that's fine. You're going to learn yourself as you do things more. So block times, and then when you actually do it, you're tackling that block and see how much actual time it takes to complete. So it's urgent. The problem with like that we're addressing with the block and tackle is that we often let urgent things drive us rather than important things. And so if we are blocking out our activities and we are blocking out to set boundaries on completing things, then we're less likely to be distracted by urgent things. And we're more likely to have fewer urgent things that don't get done. This also helps us set routines that prevent us from going into those trivial things like, oh, I suddenly was on social media for an hour. Like those sorts of distractions, because you have this block and you feel like this accountability to your own blocks. When you block and tackle, it will help you to kind of get into more of the zone, like with each project, because as you start something, you know you're going to finish it and you're driving toward that finish line as compared to driving toward the end of the workday. I don't know if you've ever had the experience where like you're like, well, I just need to finish this report sometime this week. And so then you just like look at your calendar, you just start working on it each day. And then by the end of the day, you're like, what did I get done? Oh, I still have 4 more days. It's cool. You know, whereas if you broke it up and set yourself some boundaries and deadlines on specific things to get done, you would drive faster through because you have that fence around your time. So deadlines really motivate people's actions. And you can kind of like check, like, oh, I got stuff done. Ooh, I'm totally a to-do list like check offer. Like I love having things done. And so it's like that little dopamine hit every time I'm like, check, haha. You know, I love progress. So you get that rewarded feeling. And at the end of the day, because you know you've completed things, you have that feeling of productivity when you go to bed. So how does this work? You plan to block. So at the end of each day, you need to reflect on what you're doing tomorrow. So I actually have a time, I have 15 minutes at the end of every single day where I review how I did the day, for that day. So what were my blocks and how did I do? Like, were my plans accurate or did I take lots of time? And I look at the next day and I say, okay, what's in my calendar? So I remind myself of my blocks. I might adjust things based on how things are going. Like I go, okay, I really need more time on this because I know that all this. So I'll shift up my blocks a little bit. I might move blocks to other days, so because of urgency and things like that, I might have to switch my theme days based on how stuff is going. But that's the beauty of being able to reflect on the next day before it starts. And then you have that one thing for the next day. And so when I get up in the morning, I open my calendar up and I use Planner and I look at my project planner and I know exactly what I should start on first. Like I don't have to decide what to work on for the day. I know exactly what I should work on and I know how long it should take. So I open up my Pomodoro timer and start working instead of, spending time thinking about like, okay, what's next? So once you figure out what you're trying to achieve, you decide how many focus blocks you need and how long those blocks are, and you put them into your calendar. Now, how long should the blocks be? As long as you want. No, if you're experienced at a task, as long as you want. So if it's stuff that's related to evaluation, stuff that you do all the time, then take as long as you want. Like have a super long block, do a 4-hour block if you want. Like go for long blocks, go for short blocks, whatever you think it'll take to finish things. Just get yourself to completion points throughout. But if it's something that you're not as experienced at, so you're not really sure about how long it'll take, it's a task you haven't done in a long time or you've never done before or you haven't done very often, give yourself short blocks of time so that you can not like spin your wheels for a long time. So set like 15 to 20 minutes on a new task will help you to start like figuring out, okay, what am I really going to have to do and what should I do next? Because you're learning it as you go. So give yourself more frequent, like more blocks. Like I said, I'm a Pomodoro user, but you don't have to use Pomodoros. But do use a timer. So like set a timer and commit to, okay, this is my block. This is the end of my block. Set a timer for the end of your block and like compete against yourself to finish what you said you would do in that block. Of course, like nobody's going to penalize you really if you don't finish in your block, right? But that is data. So track how off you are. If you're not done, if you finish early, awesome, still track it, because then next time you can block yourself less time. So make sure that you're scheduling in like eating and drinking. I have been known to like forget to eat because I accidentally like blocked myself like no time to take a break. So plan out like real work hours and block out what you're going to do and set yourself timers to complete each block. Some things that can help to maximize this further is to start batching things. So for example, I only do my bookkeeping and finance money stuff on Fridays. I have a 30-minute block. This is when I do it. And that way, all the rest of the week, I can ignore the emails about money. I can ignore like, I even have to log in to my bookkeeping software, nothing. And so I don't think about it. But on Fridays, I know that I'm going to think about it and I do all my weekly review, I do all my bookkeeping, etc. So batch stuff together so that you don't have to worry about it the whole week, that you have just like a time to do it. Some people are really good about batching emails, like you only check emails at certain times of day. I find that email is my addiction, and so it's the hardest thing for me to block, but it works for a lot of people. I'm still working on it. But I do block like marketing time. I have like specific time I block every day for like my networking and like referrals and stuff. And then I have a separate time for content creation, proposals, those things, so that every day I'm working on marketing instead of having a themed day. Or I mean, I still have a marketing themed day, but I have one themed day instead of multiple because I have marketing at the beginning, basically bookending my days. So like batch things together and it'll help you to be consistent with routines and feel less distracted when you're working in your block times, because you've already, you have a time for that. You're going to get to it. It won't be like lingering in your head, like, oh, don't forget to do this. And track your data. So just like we evaluate our clients, evaluate your business. Keep track of data, keep track of your outputs and your outcomes, and actually evaluate your effectiveness. Track your time and pay attention to how good you are at estimating it. So reminders of block your time in your calendar, one thing at a time, cut off all your distractions during that block. When the timer goes off, see how good you were at getting done what you said you would get done. Log your results. Keep like a little journal or whatever you need so that you can start to learn lessons about how you use your time and how you produce. So, because Matt's my buddy, you all can get a free coaching call with me to help get clarity on your business, right? Like what is the right thing right now that you should be working on? So you can go to that site. I put it in serif so you could see that that's a 2 and a capital I and an L. uh, but we will talk about whatever is like your current state of your business and where you need to go next. And I'm happy to point you in the right direction. And if you want to learn more about the Changemakers Legion community, you can go to thechangemakerslegion.com, which the link is at the bottom, where basically we make it your best year ever every single year. So I'd love to hear, I mean, I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a second, but I would love to hear your insights from things and any sorts of plans for action